Okay, hello everyone. I am Petteri, Beetlejuice, Gentoo developer, many years, since '05, council member, developer lead, developer relations lead, and so on. Um, let's start by asking how many developers we have present in the room. Please raise your hand. Gentoo developers. Yeah, good. A couple more. How many people are coming to the dinner afterwards? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, about 20. Yeah, let's take a closer head count. But we have a place reserved for about 20 people if we need more space. It's downtown. Gets 50% off today from the food. So, Chelion, if someone has other suggestions, I can take those as well. But on the Gentoo topic, many developers here, probably users as well. So if you want to ask anything of the developers, that's going to be good. Had made plenty of good discussions in previous years as well. And I asked around for a couple of topics to start with. Is that developer-wise, eAPI 6 is something that interests people. What would you like to see, for example? So anyone want to suggest, or should I throw my ideas first, or no? So one thing that I see discussed is that how to split. I would be interested in on how people want to handle dependencies with multiple variables, one variable, and all them together with the Exerbo-like syntax, or then as it is in separate variables. Do a quick. Anyone, developers know what I'm talking about? Yeah, Grobian is just shaking his hand. Yeah, so the idea is that that's float around is putting them into one variable and then labeling them like build plus run plus something. And do you want this?
Yeah, what's the win?
People want to add new types, so instead of having 10 new bash variables.
Okay, but we had but we had this discussion, I think, on the list, and people just wanted to have new shiny new things because it's more. But what does it more for us? So is it really worth adding 5 more shiny new things because people want to do imaginary new shiny new cool more?
One of my personal goals when doing it would be also to semantically change the current things. If you read the specs for depend and rdepend, it's pretty much broken. The official spec is it can do whatever, kind of not whatever, but because of historical reasons, it couldn't nail it down.
Do we actually ever use the fact that we have built and runtime dependencies? Do we actually do something like uninstall build dependencies after we built it?
Yes. I use a trick like that for Swig. I want to share two thoughts here. The first one is about what you said about new stuff, because it's new. You know, users' mind work in a quite different way from developers' mind. And usually users' minds works like, oh, it's new, I like it, let's try it. Even if it's useless, just because it's new. We on the hardened world have seen that a lot of times. Of things that are maybe not that necessary, but still you put them and, oh, it's new, let's try it. Even if you say them not, don't do that. The other thing it's about runtime dependencies and multi-time dependencies. There is also this thing, it's called binary distribution. It's passed out of Gentoo. For example, we have, who is it called? I cannot remind the name, and I have been told it like 1 second ago.
You're talking about Sabayon, right?
Huh?
Sabayon?
Yes, Sabayon, exactly. The thing is that the Sabayon users should be able to install the build dependencies because they will have a binary system behind that will provide them. And it could be useful for them to be able to get all the dependencies they need from the builds, even if they have to use a slightly different system there.
But also, to answer that question, I don't know if you noticed, but Portage did change the default behavior. If you update world, I don't think it includes pure build dependencies anymore. Yeah, so the default already is that it doesn't keep you up to date. Yeah. So yes, there's already lots of stuff done with it, but it's also if you start thinking about it semantically, you can't really define all the dependencies you would need with the current setup. For example, and also breaking circular dependencies and properly detecting them would benefit from more fine-grained control. Like, is this thing only needed at package functions, or is it only needed? And that way, Portage could do more if it had a little bit more information in its automation. Anyway, it was interesting to hear from users. Is there anyone here who has an idea that he would like to see in Gentoo and doesn't currently have it, and motivate the developers here to deliver?
Anyway, isn't it? Ooh, look at
Oh, it works better than.
Honestly,
works in Oscar.
I heart Gentoo. I've been using it for like 10 years now. The only thing I really desperately need is a way to more documentation on some of the slightly more obscure things. Like, I was given a Mac at my current job, and they said, use this Mac, and I didn't want to, and I wanted to install Gentoo on it, and I have no idea how. And the docs for the installation process were there, but the wiki was there, but some of it was out of date, and it was referring to things that weren't active anymore, and other sites were saying, well, don't use that. So just a little more authority in terms of documentation would be good too. But I mean, in terms of features, I heart Gentoo. It's great. It does everything I want. Every time I wanted to do something, it's already doing it. So you may be worrying too much about adding new features, at least from my perspective. Well, that's the thing. There's Gentoo wiki, and then there's something else that's...
Yeah, wiki-wise, there's the previous community run thing that had a DB loss something, and twice. But then there's the infra run wiki.gentoo.org, which is official for the project, and hopefully the former will be obsoleted by everyone using the official one. At least what's blessed by us. So I don't know. Does anyone know, is all the content being transferred, or you can't transfer because of the licensing, but being made sure that it's available in the...
Transfer of the documentation from the Gentoo.org site, which is guide XML, towards the wiki is not a problem license-wise, because we are using the Creative Commons attribution share alike license, which has a clause that says that future versions are also applicable. So we standardized on the license version 2.5. The wiki uses 3.0. So transferring documentation between the two is not a problem.
I mean, from the Gentoo wiki dot thing. I remember reading, but I might be...
wiki.com towards the wiki.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's indeed, I think, with the GNU documentation versus the Creative Commons one. So yeah, that's indeed encompassed. To answer the question on documentation, well, I'm also one of the authors of many documents on Gentoo. It's true that most of the documentation that we built for commodity hardware will be up to date enough, and for less commodity hardware, it's difficult for us to write information about. I can guess what the instructions would be for a Mac or an Apple, but I think guessing would not be enough for installing Gentoo on the. So it would be interesting if people who are experiencing or experimenting with a Mac with Gentoo could just write their blog information, and then I can easily move that towards a more official format. Yeah, yeah, I can imagine that. Yeah.
So work gave me a Mac as well, and I do have Gentoo installed on it. There's some trick in the EFI that you have to block out some memory section in order to get video to work right for me. So I'll see if I can actually document that for you. That would be great. We'll see.
Not too much. I need him.
Can you pass them?
Yeah, you just use Ubuntu and then chroot. Many ways to the same place.
Yep. Yeah.
One question that we had here on the last meeting was user patches. There was some discussion on the mailing list about possibly enabling user patches on all e-builds, and then there was the idea of implementing user patching in eAPI.
You can already do user patching if you just stick some code in
Yeah, you have
slash
to,
etc slash
the
portage.
bash RC, and then you have to implement the code. But
I think user patching should be a bit hard in the sense that only people, it's a support nightmare in the sense that unless very well thought out, all the bugs coming in to box.gentoo.org, debugging could get complicated if people can easily run stuff there that way. But
when you yes.
Luca is asking whether we're going to have dinner because he has to leave now and wants to join us later.
So I guess the place is settled on Chelion in near the Grand Pla. No one objected at least to that. So I have the address as well, but it's over there. Yeah, we could do that as well. The reservation is at 8. It'll probably take a while to get there, but I don't.
Like I was saying, for as a user, that solution is very attractive to me because I can just put a patch there and emerge and everything will be fine. But if I'm submitting a bug on that specific piece of software, I doubt that I would ask the Gentoo developers to debug a patch that I've put. For example, in Bugzilla, when we submit the info, you could say, yeah, you have this patch, so
Yeah, but
you have this patch, so please emerge it without that patch.
But if it's a patch you have written yourself and put in place, you're not one of those users who, oh my God, this will make my stuff 10% faster kind of patch.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying that if that feature is standard, standardized in the eAPI and it works for all the packages, it will be fine for us.
But is it really an eAPI feature or package manager feature?
It can be.
But what does the eBuild file have to know about user patches?
Yeah.
I think the discussion was that you can do patching at a specific place, and right now the patch is just applied after unpack, but might be applied at a different time, and then the eBuild needs to know when to actually do the patch. And now.
Relatedly to this, from both sides where it's a good idea and a bad idea, MySQL, we apply a lot of patches. We have a 5-digit numbered series that we give the patches to make sure we have enough spaces. And a bunch of times now we've gotten bugs where a user has made their own slightly different version of a patch, and they had it under etc., and they filed a bug. This is broken. The CMake didn't build. That was the most recent one. And I was saying, I'm damn certain I fixed that. And the user was going on for a while. 2 weeks later, the user said, ah, crap, I had a version of that patch sitting there. Nothing pointed that fact out ahead of time. It absolutely needs to be in the image info for one, but at the same time, when it happens, does need to be controlled as well in the E-classes, because the ordering of those patches is so important.
That's exactly where I was going, because for a thing like mud, there's plenty of patches, and if people want to have their own patches in, I'm fine. So what I did is whenever there is a user patch applied, I record in the version that there was a user patch applied. So when people report a bug, I can actually see that they have their own patches applied, which means try it without, and then if it still dies, then it's my bug. But maybe indeed, if you want to do this on a global level, Ported should even record that there was a user patch applied. But it's a security thing, it's a convenience thing, it's very hard, I think. But you get this, but at least I think you should know whether or not a patch was applied, which basically means void warranty.
I don't know whether it's sacrilege to mention Debian stuff around here, but we have a tool called Report Bug, which does things like gives the diff between the packaged config files and the ones that are installed for the package that you're reporting the bug on. You could probably take something like that and patch it to also include the patches that are in the machine, and it just stuffs it onto the bottom of the bug report.
Yeah,
and
we already have that tool.
And you can select whether to have it or not when you're reporting the bug. So if it's a privacy thing, you just say no.
Yeah, we already have emerged --info. Then the question just is that we not everyone does that well, and people have actually forged that information. But
It must be.
Have you considered user interaction when a patch is applied and runs emerge? It will actually ask him, are you sure you want to apply that patch? That's more secure, because, for example, one could go and put some patches in there, and there will get applied. Yeah. Well, it will stay. They will stay there. I mean, there might be multiple, whatever. When you compile something, you have to know the patch is applied. You have to give your consent. I mean, if you put, you might have forgot the patch there, for example.
Well, you could. That's a PM feature. If it has enough information, it can ask you. But by default, e-builds are not interactive, and I don't want them to become interactive in any way. At least in the default case.
If one wants to put a patch on a package, it can easily go to the portage and add the patches, the subdirectory and stuff like that. Why do we have to do this whole thing of under /etc?
Currently, if you want, your changes would get over if you put it in the US in your portage directory. Unless you're taking it out of CVS, it will get deleted when you sync next time.
Yeah, but that also makes sense because
What you mean is this: you put it in /etc portage, bashrc thing or something, your own hook to apply the patches, right?
The idea is that the source changes. Okay, I mean we use a source distribution, so we can play with this thing easy. I mean I could just do an e-build, throw it on /var, apply my patch, and continue. So why do I have to? Why? And way. If one wants more control, it has the way to do it. If it wants no control, he just goes and emerge stuff normally. User party, yeah, but we're talking a middle thing in the middle that I think it messes things up. I mean, yeah.
What I'm trying to understand from your saying, the answer is you can use flags if you want to patch or not your source. So the idea is if you can make a use flag, if use this flag, then patch it. Exactly when you emerge, you know, you have the option to use what's those are those two. Yeah,
The-
you have the use flag to call the user patch. So if you apply the use flag, it will apply the patch. If not, it does not apply the patch. So you have complete control over this with the use flag. And the use flags can give you the option to do everything you would want, even patch the patch. You know, you have a use flag in the use flag, and patch the patch from the use flag. So that this is complete.
I think user patches shouldn't be handled by a user flag, because then we will end up with something like has happened with the test use flag. It's a nice use flag that when you check it says used for testing the system. Please don't use it if you are not using the proper feature. Oh, okay, yeah, sorry. So I think it's better if we instead directly use a feature that says user patches. And that feature, since it will get notified when you do a merge -info, we will know on the bug that the user is using user patches. So we can tell him, please try without user patches, and if it's still failing, then filter bug again.
I think that one of the things that was wanted was end user notification that user patches are being applied. So having it in use flag would make it, I think, easier because emerge. Right, features are system wide, and when you emerge something, merge-v will show you use flags that are enabled and disabled, and you will see, oh, user flag or user patch is enabled. So I think using the same methodology that was used for tests might be better in this case.
And also this way, maybe we have a way to disable this functionality for some packages, like do not allow some package to have this use flag. Yeah, that use flag seems more elegant solution.
I have also another thing to add about the use flags. Well, let's say you have a source with 20 configures. You know, you have a source with 20 features, and well, you want to diverge that source. You want to split that source to make like 20 packages with each package with one feature at a time for a single package, for a single program. You have the possibility with the use flags and portage structure to rename the program name and name something like git feature 1, you know, git feature 2, and make for each feature you can make a separate directory with the same e-build and different applied use flag, and this is some simplicity divided. It's the basic principles on which Debian is based. You know, if Debian created the packages in yeah, you can.
If you want to do that, isn't it just much better in that case to create your own overlay? So it's very, very clear what you have done and why that is something for you. Because if I would say, okay, people like to apply user patches, that's fine with me, but it should be a simple on-off button, and we should be able to see that it is yes or no. But the simple on-off button isn't simple, because for something like PHP or whatever, where should this patch be applied? And at what moment is it applied? So how should it look like? What if it fails? So it is much more complex than just apply my patch for peep's sake.
But you
Yes, but if If
Yeah, it's good, good.
if it's a user patch, it's the user responsibility. If the develop, sorry. It's user responsibility.
Not in. So if you want to apply a patch, right? You can't just say whenever source prepare finishes, apply the patch. Becomes sometime you need to apply the patch somewhere before or somewhere halfway source prepare. So whoever maintains that package needs to know when or when not to inject the patch. But now you can have a patch that may be just a set statement or whatever that should just apply at a different location. That's what's making it difficult.
Maybe if source prepare is not defined, we automatically call user patch just at beginning. Doesn't matter. But if it is defined, then we don't call it automatically. Yeah, it's hard.
And when is it in an E class?
So I have another thing. There are in some situations you just want to enable a configure parameter on the configure script. Like there is there's LLVM, okay, for Gallium, and it had support for Radeon 600, okay. And all you needed to do is recompile LLVM with minus with Radeon just to enable this option, okay. So you can do it this with a patch because this is in another stage in eBuild. You have to edit eBuild and add this
Extra
inside.
econf question?
Huh?
Is this an extra econf question?
No, I think if we're going to allow people to apply patches, we could allow people to create their own use flags in the same way, like add config options.
They can already append configure options.
Yeah, but they have to edit the.
No, there's extra econf that you can stuck in. I don't know, Portage might support per package environments already, so you can stuck it into a file and it already does it for you.
I know that. That's
But I guess that goes back to the fact that the feature is even documented, right?
The interesting part of that is actually that I don't think we record it. So you can actually create your own package that works in a completely wrong way without us actually knowing. And still you get bugs. So
Can we get it recorded?
fix it.
You complained. Fix it.
There's about three or 4 months ago we added a section on the Gentoo handbook called Portage Advanced Management, and that contains information on how to use hooks within Portage to for instance change your own C flags just for a particular package or enable or disable a feature just for a particular patches. Perhaps another question not related to the user patching. I frequently use binary packages because for distributing many virtual machines and upgrades. One problem that I always face with binary packages is that the moment I build a binary package with a certain use flags, it gets recorded in the package metadata that this binary package is just for those use flags. But I cannot create another binary package with a different use flag because it would override the first one. But I would really like to use the same repository even for small changes on the use flags. Otherwise, I have to have multiple binary package repositories depending on each of my system states.
There was a very old hack in doing it that took a hash of the use flags as the package dir. This was 7 years ago. I haven't seen it since, but I'm pretty certain it's around there somewhere.
That
Cool.
also
I'll document it and then we can support it.
I think that goes back to it's a package manager issue also, and it goes back to do we want to define the binary package support someday?
Cannot we just try to do something as it's done with versioning, for example? No, well, something like we do with versioning on stuff like that. We used add a number at the end of the target that we are using for binary files, and we check all of them that match a regular pattern. So if we find one that matches our local use flags, we use that one. That way we could prevent the problem in a quite easy way.
Take the mic.
Like as a separator, just use underscore to say, okay, now after everything after those two underscores is now the version for different use flag combinations. And then when we install, just scan all those packages and say, oh, does any of these match what you're calling?
I think the idea with the hack of instead of storing the binaries with package name -version.tar.bz2, just use whatever it was, a hash.tar.bz2. It doesn't matter because we have the packages files itself that is an index of all the binary packages with the use flags. So in the end, Porter just first reads the packages files. It looks at which one to pick, and then it knows which files to them. So indeed, the hack of 6 years ago might probably just be whatever we need.
There is also another solution which assigns use flags are single bits, as in 1 or 0. Users are either enabled or disabled. You can indeed do a bit vector with this thing and just encode it in some way. Yeah, but if you add a new use flag, if you add a new use flag, you should at least do the revision of the package if you do so. But it also could involve a little bit of policing in that aspect.
Or another question, can we just make sure that all EIP 0, 1, 2, and 3 and 4s are removed from the tree?
So first, there's a question. So removing all the APIs from the tree, and then there's the question of deprecating EAPIs. But in the end, the package manager will still need to be able to uninstall them and indefinitely probably support them anyway. But the more interesting question is that who does the work to upgrade them all? I haven't run stats. Robin might know that what is the distribution between EAPIs, but from what I recall, 0 still had a very large percentage of the total files. So what developers bring up is that it gets mentally too hard to keep the diff in mind when working with e-builds and reading them. And now that I am reading this, that I should know that this version works this way and this version works that way when you're shifting to existing APIs.
Consider the discussion again on user patching, where EAP 0 doesn't support the prepare state, and later the APIs do support it. So you have to involve coding and checks on, okay, which EAPI is this, and then have to change my behavior. And for 3 or 4 EAPIs, that's still manageable. But the more EAPIs you have to support, I think the code will become more messy. And then deprecating all the EAPIs might be an improvement on the manageability concerns.
Not only that, but just for developers maintaining packages, if you have 20 EAPIs, just knowing the differences between them all is going to be not good, not easy.
You can ask the latest recruits because they have during their quizzes all the changes.
I have one question. Do we have a document stating which is the difference between each API?
Yes.
Because I don't recall seeing one when I was doing my...
the PMS appends a list at the end, and dev manual has...
you mean to think that nobody knows it exists until now?
So, nobody told you, yeah, but I guess it's mostly a question
You're null def because you didn't have to say towards the recruiter where it was, but currently recruiters really ask where the differences are documented for EAPIs.
just going back a little bit to this problem of the eAPIs and deprecating, I think the problem is not so much that we deprecate, because it's already known that removing support for an API is almost impossible, and the overhead of keeping them around is almost zero, because it's there anyway. So, and then when you want to say, okay, we don't want to have any new e-builds that are not of the latest API, yeah, then you end into this area that I think when developers write a completely new e-build, they usually take the latest API because they write from the scale. I don't know. Okay, not always. Well, maybe that's something that we could work on. But on the other hand, if you're just bumping a package, I just copy it as well. And why would you change it into a new API if it works fine? So there is, again, like, how much work do you want to inflict on all your co-devs by just saying, I want to get rid of this eAPI? There's only one eAPI that we can get rid of easily, and that's eAPI 2. Because all eAPI 2 e-builds can be zapped into a 3 e-build, and then they work. That's the only thing we can do, easily. But yeah, I think Graaf has the stats in front of him, right? Yeah. Yeah, so it's pretty cool.
Yeah, so you were wondering about eAPI 0, and that's about 22.8%, 0.89 to be precise.
And then evenly distributed for the others, or?
No, it's most of them are 4. That's about 42%, and then there's 14, 12% for 2 and 3. The API 1 is the SAD API. It only has 1.5% of the packages supporting it. I don't have 5 in the list. I have unsupported. I'm guessing that's the same, and that's 6% as of today. A very good question, and I have no information on that. Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah.
So I am wondering what would be the problem of you stating we are not going to support older eAPIs. So every new code that we add to the portage tree must be at least this API or higher. And if you use an older eAPI and it fails, we might say I'm sorry, we are not going to fix it because it's old and we don't care about that.
Then you get the counter argument that I am doing a security bump. I don't want to rewrite the e-build. I just want to have the security fix there. But it's just a balance. It's no. I guess that's just a value. That you will find arguments on both sides, but you could inflict it on people if you don't think that it pisses off too many off.
Like, you could just do it in repo man and just have it be a warning instead of, critical or whatever the other one is. Right.
But that's already like. But
what is the value of change, though? Does change include including an e-patch statement for a security bug? It shouldn't in that case, because they just want to bump it for the patch for security.
But adding soft warnings doesn't change the status quo. Everyone's already encouraged to and pretty much told to use the latest things. So if we want any bigger change to be done, that's only gonna happen through forcing people. Any new soft warnings, I don't think will have any effect on the situation.
Actually, I just wanted to say that if you are pushing a security patch on your build, and we are following a system where we don't care about all the APIs and we deprecate them, you don't have the excuse of I'm not going to rewrite the build. used to take the new API, because if in the future a security issue raises from an old API, then you will have to rewrite it anyway. So it makes no sense to me, that excuse, at least. I mean, if you care about security, then you will use the last API, that is the one that is going to receive any kind of security patches that are needed. I'm saying that APIs might be bad on the future. I mean, they might have security issues on the future. We don't know.
Well, that's kind of every piece of code. It can't be. We don't want to formally prove that all the code imported is security secure. So that argument doesn't really persuade me anyway. But I guess a good polling question is that how many devs here would accept a rule that you would always have to pump it to the latest EAPI, or would including security? So I guess that I guess that answers the question of adding such a rule would piss off lots of people. Most. But then the question comes that if you have that exception, how do you enforce it? Because that's working. You can't really make it automatic.
Oh yes, we can. If it's a security
Or-
issue, there must be a
or
GLSA
like-
associated with
I guess
it.
it's like repo man. I am committing a security fix. Ignore the. Yeah, that's true.
Thank you. So if you're doing commits with -f automatically, that's wrong to begin with. And if you're doing a security commit that cannot possibly wait another second, you can use -f, but you will have to explain yourself later. And that's okay. I mean, there's always the exception to the rule, which is what I meant. Making it fail in the default case and having a way out when there's an emergency, I think that's the way you should do something like this.
Okay, I guess time-wise, 15 minutes. So we can discuss a little more, I guess.
Giving you some exercise there. Just from an infra perspective, a while ago, I wanted to look at how often people use force. On a daily basis, it's about 1% of commits. Mostly in the obscure arches. And that's not too bad. I don't think we need to forbid it in that case. There are a bunch of cases. I see Vapier doing it on S390 occasionally, because there's just it's not really a problem to forbid it, but maybe some more statistics and visibility on it is a good idea.
Actually, some small note about S390. If you need a box running it, at least during the Euskal encounter we can get one. So just tell me and I can get you a virtual machine there probably.
So if we're going to have those statistics, who's going to monitor that?
There are already people who pretty passionately read the commits mailing list because they point out flaws to dev. So I would assume that that part of the crowd will also be looking at the same thing.
Oh, just actually somewhere where we can put it, I realize Dockside put together the QA reports graphs. We just put it in there. It'd be useful.
We have developers that really enjoy nitpicking on everything that happens, so I don't think we should problems with monitoring of those commits.
So any new topics that people would like to touch on before the end? Yeah, we talked long about user patches.
Okay, I have this crazy idea because there's lately been a lot of fuss because of this slash user moves in UDEF and so on. We actually, as a meta distribution, are probably the only distro that can do it right. That means make it configurable which binaries you want to have in root and which binaries you want to have in slash user. So I think it would be quite nice to expose the -- prefix configure option to the user.
But
I think we don't want to discuss that.
It will probably generate a lot of heat and no progress.
Yeah.
Actually, it turns out that the root prefix configuration option, like any other configure option, is exposed to the user. The users have a bus flag. I don't recall. I think it's extra configure or something like that.
Yeah,
that
we
they
already
can use
talked
on
about
an
that.
environment
So yeah.
for a particular package, which they can use to push this kind of stuff there. The only thing that you need then is that the build will have a proper install, which I think most of them do. I mean, most of them just need to run make install. So
But you will end up with problems down the road with other places assuming the prefix wasn't changed. So I find it very unlikely to work in practice.
There are probably really few packages that you want to do this with. So
Yeah, well, like I said, it can be. You can already try it. You don't need anything new.
okay.
Please try it and see what breaks.
Worst case, you can always just add a new use flag to the build that will set the proper root prefix in that particular build. So then you make it easy for the user, because use flags are in theory easy to change, at least more than building environments. And on the other side, you expose which packages you have tried with different root prefixes.
But if we have those standard use flags, like start going that way, then at some point you end up. Every developer must make sure these 20 standard things for everything are in order and test them and so forth.
I'm not saying use that use flag on every package. I'm saying use this use flag on the packages that the developers think should have where the developers think the user should be able to choose between user or bar directly.
But then if you have those minor things, and you at Bugzilla you will start having user requests as well for that. But yeah, many of them of course do make sense.
Please pass the quiz and be a developer and take care of the package, and then you do it. It's my opinion, at least. I mean, it worked with me and Hardened team, so it probably will work with the others. And if you don't like it, it's your problem, not ours.
I think the prefix question was at least answered. So, anything else? So, yeah.
The chairs move on you. I'm a user, not a developer, but I do have some skills. My question is, you guys, do a lot of really awesome things for me, and I appreciate it, and I'd like to help you. What do you need? Just e-builds?
E-builds, documentation, testing is good. Or
Okay, that I know how to do.
One easy way to contribute is testing packages for stable.
Something that I really wish somebody would do is help me out with a new website. Our website is awful.
He's been persuading everybody
Yeah, well, that's the thing is, I mean, we've got a prototype that Alex Legler did in Bootstrap of a design I made a year and a half ago, but it needs to sort of get rolled out to everything else. But yeah. Well, that's the thing, right? Is a Linux distro should focus on things a Linux distro does, and not on writing its own website framework from scratch and like XML conversion engine.
Yeah, so the way the current website works is you commit to CVS XML files that are run through XSLT and. But no bug number.
Actually, if you want a tip, if you see that the bug is not answered after a long, long time, you should probably add a comment asking if there is an update on the bug. Because at times it turns out that, for example, I have bugs that I have completely missed. Until, for example, there was this one, a small dog change that Aleister asked me. I'm not sure if he's here now. He's there. He just asked me, hey, I need you to push this small change on the documentation. And I told him, okay, I will do it tomorrow. Because just now I'm too busy. I was on a freaking storm of emails. I completely lost that bug. And then like 3 or 4 months later, he come and asks, hey, can you take care, what's the news on this bug? And I told him, oh, fuck, I had completely forgot. This happens more than you think. So if you have a bug that nobody has answered, just ask, hey, do you have any news on this bug? And don't say, hey, I want it fixed. But try to ask politely. Most of us probably have just forgotten about it, or the bug was not properly assigned at the time, or there is issues like that.
There's a related one there from running the Bugzilla side. Somebody to go and look for really old open bugs that were probably solved already would be really handy. In general, for just beyond the scope of one team.
I'm not doing that.
Go find find the old bugs that look for the ones that are solved already and ask whoever developer, can this be closed now? That would be really nice.
But especially on documentation and also site-related things, if you put it on Bugzilla, it is more chance that we'll pick it up than through email, because we have a huge backlog on documentation issues. But at least when I log into Bugzilla, I get the overview. My emails, that's just most of the time either the subject doesn't give me the idea, oh yeah, this is something I have to do, or I think I've replied to that and I'm waiting for you to reply or so. Whereas with bugs, that's easier. It's really good for tracking us. So please use Bugzilla for that.
If the bus takes him out, somebody else will deal with it.
But it's also the thing for developers, when someone submits anything through email, just forward them to Bugzilla. And
just one question, you mentioned testing of to stabilize packages. You mean, for example, okay, I use this in Arch, I will file a bug.
Yeah, so like you use a stable system, and the next version of KDE comes in. You can. There are Arch teams to contact with their exact procedures, but basically means that new version of Firefox in, and does it work on my stable system on Gentoo, and then you report back that for me it worked.
Yeah, you should start with stable, so it's not because you use ~arc that you can say, yes, this is stable for me. No, you need to use a stable system and just one package so that it works. Yeah. There are two things. One is computing time, which is quite difficult for each and every package. But most important thing is that we cannot automate testing if an application works. We can automate building it, but we cannot automate testing it. That's an ID for Google Summer of Code. I'm looking at someone who's not. Donny, we have an ID for a Google Summer of Code here. Yeah. No, there was a. Yeah. I think. No, it was about allowing you users that are currently using stable with a few unstable packages that they have a tool that automatically replies towards Gentoo that I run these packages in unstable on an otherwise stable system and they work, so that stabilization of those packages are.
So we do this stats program every year, and somebody works on it for like 3 months, and it gets to sort of like a prototype phase where there's a website and people can kind of upload their packages and stuff, and it doesn't go anywhere. I think somebody did one last year, so I would be thrilled if you checked it out and pick it up and make it do what you want. Which one is that?
Was it Django based? One of the Python things?
It's gosh, I don't remember. I honestly don't remember.
Robin, do you remember what?
I mean, we've
Gentoo was
literally
for the
been doing
stats
this like
project?
every year or every other year since like 2006. And everybody's like, stats, that would be awesome. And then nobody actually cares enough to pick up the code and do anything with it. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Why the fuck did you didn't tell me when I started releasing stats on the builds?
Yeah?
I started releasing that on the mailing list, and you didn't say anything. If I had known, I could have done more work on that.
Well, see, that's the thing is, I mean, there's a lot of potential value there, right? But nobody is building all the tools to take advantage of it. So, I mean, there's a lot of work to be done to build the tooling to actually deal with that data that we could have, and we don't even have the data yet.
Yeah, but maybe moving forward with a couple minutes left. And so please raise your hand who are coming for dinner, and I'll do an exact count from, let's go from back. Let's see. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You're coming? 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12.
Raise your hand if you think you are cool.
13, 14, 15, 16. No. 17, 18, 19, 20, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33 for me. Did I miss more? So okay, I have to phone and get more space and see where it goes.
Yeah, if any of you guys who aren't developers or college students, let me know.